Last but not least here, I was hoping to share with you kind of some of my sentiments regarding this idea of controlling eating behavior. We spent the last two acoustic components here talking about kind of the neurobiology of eating, the nature of eating, I would argue. And the basic idea here is here are all the neurological mechanisms controlling eating behavior, physiologically speaking. The problem with all of those neurobiological ideas is the following. How many times in your life have you been completely satiated, completely full, yet you keep eating? Most of us have quite a few times where that's actually has taken place. A neurobiological model, something that just says it's neurobiology, satiation, hunger center, so on and so forth, cannot explain that. If you actually just took somebody who was completely full and they saw something extra yummy and they liked it, neurobiology couldn't explain that. So I would in fact argue in today's society there is a lot of not just nature as far as eating behavior, but there is a lot of nurture. There is a lot of environmental influence as well. And I'll try to give you some support for some of those ideas. And actually, we can actually start even from the psychopharmacological level of things. That if you give somebody a drug, like fen-phen or one of these other things, will it actually fix the problem? Is there a magic bullet? And the answer is usually no. That if you give somebody a product, it's not going to just fix things. If it did, that would really argue for the idea of this type reductionism, just fix this receptor and fix this behavior. The fact that you can't just fix a receptor for this suggests that there must be other things at work. I would suggest nurture things per se. Another interesting idea, the idea of bariatric surgery. I actually printed out weight loss surgery, bariatric surgery. Does it actually work? Does it actually lead to long-term weight loss? And in most situations, the answer is no, it does not. The key for those programs to be successful isn't the surgery. The key is the behavioral stuff going on for the person, the environmental impact of what's going on in the brain. So surgery, bariatric, weight loss surgery is really not going to be incredibly useful. So products don't work straight up. Surgery doesn't work straight up. What does seem to work is when you do environmental things per se, nurture things. The other argument I could give for you actually has to do a little bit with eating disorders. Things like anorexia and bulimia. Yes, there are things going wrong in the hypothalamus with those particular disorders, but it's not as if just fixing those receptors are going to fix the problem. Many times with anorexia or bulimia, the problems, as your book talks about, are about controlling eating and kind of family issues and environmental things, kind of psychological variables. So I would suggest that is indeed the case. So the obesity epidemic is with us now. So I want to talk a little more about nurture things that kind of influence that. I would argue a big reason why we have so many troubles today is because food is just not used for biological purposes. Food is a very social type of thing. Food is big business. And so big businesses advertise a lot. Food is easy access in most situations. The food that tastes the most yummy is actually the most fattening food. And so it's available, it's cheap, it's easy, it's very sociable to eat food at social occasions. So society has really kind of gotten obese because of a lot of these other things going on. We don't exercise nearly as much either. That's a behavioral thing as well. So a very interesting model that I wanted to share with you, and I printed out a picture of it in your appendix, is this idea that actually I think makes a great deal of sense. It's called the leaky barrel model of weight control. Old models of weight control just talked about the hypothalamus, about the lateral, of the ventral medial, eating and feeding centers, and there was no role for kind of the nurture of things. This model I'd ask you to read about and look at the information. Very interesting what it actually says. Number one, the hose coming in, the amount of water entering the hose is analogous to how much food is coming in. And I would argue in this day and age, there's a lot of available food to be coming in there. 100 years ago, 200 years ago, not nearly as much. So the food coming in is number one. Number two, the water pressure of the nozzle is analogous to the incentive value of the available food. And I would once again argue this is the nurture component. The fact that things are being advertised all over the place, TV commercials, radio ads, billboards, cheap and easy stuff, that the incentive value for the food is very, very high. So if you got a lot of food coming in there, the incentive value is high. The amount of water entering the barrel is how much is the consumed energy. That's going to be a lot in today's day and age. So the water level is analogous to the amount of body fat. So there's a lot of food out there. There's a lot of incentive to eat that food. So the barrel gets very, very full. Number 5, the amount of water leaking from the barrel is analogous to the amount of energy being expended. We have cars now. We don't have to do exercise unless we really want to. And so you're not losing a whole lot in there. And what the weight of the barrel on the hose is analogous to the strength of the satiety signal. So the weight of the barrel, there isn't a real strong signal these days. So people are not paying attention to that. There are a lot of social cues. So this is called the leaky barrel model of eating. And I would argue that this model, I think, fits reasonably well because of the idea that it also brings in kind of the nurture, if you will, of eating. So what I'll ask that you do here, and actually one of the other programs I like to talk about, the only real way to try to lose weight is to be involved in a program like Weight Watchers, and I'll try to include a little information on that. The idea of setting goals, monitoring behavior, it's all based on kind of nurture things, and that the control of eating behavior is not something just physiological based, but it's got to be kind of by the person, and you can exert some sort of cognitive control on it. So cognitive behavioral things tend to be better to lose long-term weight. And when the surgeries are actually successful, research has shown that it's because people make behavioral changes as well. So see if you can summarize these things, put them together, type out a nice summary, look up some of those other products on clinical trials, and hopefully this will make a lot of sense. Thanks. Bye-bye.